What's up, everybody? Good late morning. It is Friday. We made it to the end of the week, and we've still got a little bit more work to do with the free agents. Still got a few more positions to take measure of and evaluate. And today we're doing one that right now doesn't seem like any kind of a need, but it probably will be by the time we actually get there. We're talking about tight end. So, right now, if the season started tomorrow, the Seahawks would have Noah Fant as one tight end, and they'd have A.J. Barner as the other tight end. And that's pretty good. Noah Fant is a decent tight end. He can play, good pass catcher, fully capable of doing the things you need from a move tight end. And then you have A.J. Barner, the young up-and-comer, shown promise as a pass catcher and a blocker, should offer some versatility, should offer some dual ability as we move forward here, and he builds experience. And admittedly, that's it, but that really should be all you need. Even in Kubiak's tight end heavy offense, it's not like he's going 3 tight end all the time. He's going 2 tight end all the time. So technically, yes, you might need a third tight end. And maybe you could argue that that tight end needs to offer some bonus value as like a fullback. But that's kind of a different conversation anyway. You could easily argue the Seahawks should just sign a fullback. So what I'm trying to say is that as of right now, the only thing the Seahawks really need is a third tight end, and you can go find that guy no problem at pretty much any point during the calendar year. You can go get Jacob Hollister. You can go get Jack Westover, wherever he is. You can find somebody on a practice squad and spend basically no resources on it. And you can trust that it's a guy who's pretty much never going to see the field. And it's not going to be something that you're that worried about because there are going to be about 100 different guys you could sign that are kind of interchangeable in that role. You could go get Brady Russell back, and it's all fine. So right now, we don't need a tight end. However, assuming the Seahawks make the move that most people, myself included, expect and cut Noah Fant, then they're going to need a tight end. They're going to need probably a fringe starting to starting tight end because of Kubiak's offense. A.J. Barner's good, but I don't get the sense he's ever going to be like a all-pro tight end, and he certainly won't be one this year. So you're going to need another really good tight end here. So we're going to check free agency. I'm just going to say it right now. It's not great. If you're looking for a stud tight end in free agency this year, you're probably not going to really like what you come across. You're going to come across a lot of lackluster, mediocre options. The few guys that are really good in this crop are going to be hot commodities because there are so few of them. So it's going to be hard to find that next really good Seahawks tight end in this class. We're going to look at 2 names in this video, and that's it, because that's really all there is to look at in terms of the upper level starters. These are guys who you would sign and you would expect them to be around the 10th to 12th best tight ends in the league, maybe. You'd be paying them accordingly, and it should be okay. But at the same time, I don't think there's upper level potential with any of these guys. There's no stud or star or anything like that in this free agency class at the position. Okay, first guy. This one's interesting because of the connection to Kubiak. It's Juwan Johnson. He is listed as a receiver here, but he's mostly a tight end. He's one of those tight ends that plays a decent amount of receiver as well. Going to turn 29 right about the time the season starts. Undrafted free agent some years ago. Has been on the Saints for the last 5 years. And the last 3 years in particular, he's become a pretty important part of that offense. 500 plus yards in 2022 and 2024. And 2023, he missed a few games. Otherwise, he probably would have gotten about to the same point. So he's been reasonably productive. 7 touchdowns in 2022. That's pretty good. Saints have not had great quarterback play over the last few years. They've had moments of competent quarterback play with Derek Carr, but it's pretty decent production for somebody working with the less desirable part of the quarterback play in the NFL right now. So, not bad. This is probably the best tight end in free agency, though, which tells you all you need to know about this class. It's not good, and the good options are very, very marginal. PFF did like him last year, 66.7, and they didn't love him, by the way. That's not even top half among ranked tight ends, but that's pretty decent. The year before, less so, 58.8, which was in the bottom 25 percentile, so pretty forgettable in this regard. Now, one thing to keep in mind, if you trust Pro Football Focus, he is not a very good blocker. In 2024, his blocking grades were anywhere from well below average to awful. And in 2023, they were just kind of really bad across the board. Run blocking, pass blocking, however you want to quantify it, PFF doesn't think he can block. Now, that PFF doesn't always get this stuff right, admittedly. I think we all understand that. Sometimes there is some ability to have a false positive or a false negative when it comes to PFF grading on blocking stuff. But doesn't seem like this guy's a blocker, and you wouldn't expect him to be a blocker, right? This is a tight end that used to be a receiver, used to be considered a receiver. Those guys usually don't block. Those guys usually are the Jimmy Grahams of the world. So, doesn't seem like a good blocker according to anything that I found. So, you're getting him for his receiving ability, and Spotrac thinks in order to get him, it's going to cost you 3 years, $30.2 million. So, more than $10 million a year for Juwan Johnson. I would have a hard time justifying that. He is in his prime, but he's been in his prime the last couple of years. It hasn't helped him that much. I'm supposed to spend, 3 years, $30.2 million on a tight end who is basically producing on the same approximate level as Noah Fant. Now, I understand he'd be cheaper than Noah Fant because Fant's at the end of his contract and Juwan Johnson would be at the start of his, but it feels like you're just kind of swapping out very similar pieces. Noah Fant is probably a better blocker than Johnson, and Fant's not a very good blocker. So that tells you where we are here. So hard for me to really get behind this. I will say Kubiak coached him last year. There may be some interest because of that. He did have, by yardage and receptions, a career year in 2024, but that career year wasn't anything over the top, right? It wasn't 900, 950 yards. It wasn't even 800 yards. It was 550 yards. It's not that exciting. And if we're going to do this, I'd almost rather just keep Noah Fant. Honestly, like at a certain point, you got to say, what's the real distinction? Okay, one more guy I would label a high-end starter, somebody that's going to cost a decent chunk of money and you expect to be good. Tyler Conklin. Tyler Conklin, going to turn 30 this offseason, so he's been in the league a little while now, but should still have some stuff left in the tank. Been a pretty good player for the last 4 years now for the Vikings and mostly the Jets. Peaked in 2023 with a 620-yard season. Just kind of another Juwan Johnson in the sense that he's just kind of consistently productive. He's missed one game in the last 4 years where he's been highly productive. Had at least 50, as many as 61 catches each year. So he's a little more productive than Juwan Johnson and has a slightly cleaner track record. And overall, I do get the sense that he's a better player. The issue is the age. And the issue is the miles. He does have a decent chunk of miles on him because he's been a full-time starter basically for the last 4 years, and he hasn't missed much action at all. So Tyler Conklin, he's probably going to get to the point now here where his already not stellar athletic profile starts to slip, and you might end up holding a little bit of a bag on him because you gave him what I'm sure will be a multi-year significant deal, and then he lost something. PFF was not impressed with his 2024. they are not fans of Tyler Conklin over at PFF, it seems. 58.8, that makes him one of the worst tight ends in the league by their grading. 34th out of 37. So if you take PFF as a credible grading source, then that's a little bit of a warning sign. The previous year was better, 65.6, but that's still average, right? That's still middle of the road. And as a blocker, let's take a look here. So in 2024, they gave him a really bad run blocking grade. They gave him a good pass blocking grade, but he only pass blocks like one and a half times a game on average. So you're not getting a lot out of that. He's just holding his own when he's out there. Year before that, run blocking was still pretty bad, 54 overall. That's really not making anybody excited to put him out there. And he was a pretty good pass protector, but it's like 2 snaps a game, maybe 3 at most. It's really not gonna, it's not buttering anybody's biscuit. It's just not enough. So maybe he's a slightly better blocker than Juwan Johnson, but I haven't, when I've looked, it's not just PFF. When I've looked outside PFF, I don't get the sense that this is a particularly remarkable blocker. So if you go this route, you need AJ Barner to become a great blocker. And I think he can be, and I think he could be, and I think he probably will be. But you need him to be a great blocker now, not like in 2026 or 2027, like now. Because if the other tight end you have can't block, that leaves everything up to AJ Barner. All right, so Spotrac goes 3 years, 27 million. That's 9 million per year. So it's a lot of money, right? That's a significant chunk of the salary cap for a tight end that is seemingly mediocre when compared to others. That's kind of the vibe I'm getting off of him. So it's a little bit more beyond what you would be comfortable going with. I would say, though, that when you look at what other tight ends are getting paid, it's not far off from being right. I think this would probably be a little bit better than Juwan Johnson. The only reason why I would consider otherwise would be the fact that Juwan Johnson has a relationship with Kubiak. It's a little bit cheaper, probably going to be a little bit easier to get out of. 3 years, 27 million. Probably going to have an easy out after 2, an easier out than the Juwan Johnson because it's cheaper. And I think that a player like a Tyler Conklin is more dependable, and he's probably, even though he may not be a very good blocker, I think he's a better blocker than Juwan Johnson. So you're getting a little bit better baseline, and I place a little bit of value on that. So of these 2 options, I prefer Conklin, but it's not super exciting out there right now, man. You don't have access to the best of the best. You've got basically what's left out there after all the good guys are pretty well locked up. All right, but let me know what you guys think. Maybe somebody out there will have a rosier interpretation of this free agency tight end class than I do. Let me hear it. See you guys soon. Go Hawks. More tight end videos coming later today.